Hello, it's Dr. Donna, and welcome to another episode of my podcast, Soul Talk and Psychic Advice. Maybe you need to hear this today. If you're going through a hard season right now, I want to talk to you directly. Maybe something didn't work out the way you thought it would. Maybe somebody disappointed you. Maybe a relationship ended. Maybe you're struggling financially, as a lot of people are now. Maybe your business isn't doing what you expected it to do. Maybe you're questioning yourself. Or maybe you have had one thing after another happen and you're thinking, when am I going to catch a break? I understand. But here's what I want you to hear today. Your hard season is not the end of your story. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that everything is wonderful when it isn't. I don't do toxic positivity. I'm not going to tell you to just think positive. I'm not going to tell you that if you were spiritual enough, healed enough, intuitive enough, or had a high enough vibration, difficult things wouldn't happen to you. That's not life, and that's nowhere near reality. Life gets messy. It gets very messy. People disappoint us. I've been disappointed by many people in my life. I'm sure we all have, and we're shocked when people switch up, right? We didn't see it coming. We didn't know they were going to flip like that. But it's part of life because people have their own stuff. We make mistakes, and I know people don't like the word mistakes. I see it, I read posts, and people are like, I don't make mistakes. We all do. And until that can be accepted, you can't make things better. But if we get stuck in our ego of, I don't make mistakes, I get everything right, that's perfectionism and that's a trauma response. We all make mistakes and we all have to learn. And it's okay. It's part of the human experience. Mistakes is not bad. We all fuck up, right? We all wish we could have done something differently. We ignore our intuition sometimes, even as psychics do. I'm a psychic. I talk to other psychics. Even we will ignore it sometimes because we don't want to be mean or judgmental. Our own trauma, our own issues come to the surface. So we all do it. Being psychic is not going to save you from life. Trust me, if anything, you're going to walk right into the fire. We trust the wrong person, haven't we all? We stay too long somewhere we shouldn't be. Whether it's a job because we need to make a living, it's a bad relationship because you don't want to be alone, or you just, whatever reason can't afford to go out on your own, or you're hoping things will get better. And sometimes we leave too soon. Sometimes we need to stay and really do the work because if we don't, the lesson gets bigger somewhere else. We make business decisions that don't work. I've probably made 1,000 business decisions that don't work. One-on-ones have always worked. I've had to learn how to get better at courses and trying to figure out the group thing because I'm a one-on-one coach and I have built that extensively, and that is what I've known. But yeah, group thing is hard. I've had crazy business decisions. You will. I think everybody does. We have periods when we don't recognize ourselves. And none of that means your story is over. We all have lost ourselves at one time or another. Sometimes the hardest chapter of your life becomes a chapter that changes who you are. But you have to be willing to participate in what happens next. And this is a hard part as a reader. And, sometimes people think, well, a psychic can fix it for us. We cannot. We could tell you what's possible. Nothing's written in stone because people have the right to change their mind. Everybody has free will. Stop making the hard season mean something is wrong with you. Good Lord, don't do that. We all are going to have hard seasons. And I know sometimes you look over at somebody and it's like, well, their life's good, but you don't know what it was the day before. You don't know if they're walking around smiling and they're dealing with cancer or dealing with a bad relationship or dealing with job loss. Some people just smile, right? They smile through it all. That's how they cope. So don't assume everybody else has it easier than you because that's not true. 1.1 million people a year are going to die of cancer. Maybe the numbers are going to be higher now. We're seeing it with younger people, and a lot of them are walking around smiling. One of my dear friends smiled and gave positivity and manifested with people, and she died at age 45 from cancer. Doesn't mean everybody's life is great when your life is feeling sucky. So remember that. One thing I see people do when they're going through something difficult is immediately make it mean something about themselves. I must have made the wrong decision. I'm a failure. I'm never going to get this right. Why does this always happen to me? Maybe I'm not intuitive. Intuitive does not equal perfection. Maybe I'm blocked. Sometimes we're just in our own way. Maybe the universe is telling me to stop. Maybe the universe is testing you to see how much you want it. Maybe, but maybe you're just having a hard time, as we all do. After my son died, I got audited by the IRS. I'm like, really? We have become so comfortable with discomfort that sometimes we treat every difficult experience like it's evidence that something has gone terribly wrong. It's not always. Sometimes you're growing. Sometimes you're learning. Sometimes you're grieving. We grieve many things, not just a death. We grieve a childhood, a relationship that didn't work, a life that didn't work out, a job loss. We grieve many things. Sometimes you're discovering what isn't working. And that's very important information. People want to just get it right on the first try. Then you have no information. Then you don't have a fail-proof system. You won't know what to do when things collapse because we all get challenged. Nobody has it perfect continuously. Tons of things go wrong. I love how Gary Vee, he says, you don't see all the stuff that goes wrong on a daily basis in my business. Sometimes you really need to know what isn't working so that you can find out what really is. Sometimes you're finding out who someone really is, and it takes a long time to know somebody. We're so obsessed with, I know this person, I know this person. We really don't know anyone thoroughly. It takes time to get to know someone to see how they react. They react in your down period, your high period where everything's working, when there's a death, when there's a conflict. You don't know. When money's involved, when traveling's involved, it takes time to know somebody. Sometimes you're being forced to look at something you have avoided for years. We all have been there. And sometimes you're simply living through something painful. You don't have to spiritually explain every bad day. And I want you to be careful about making permanent decisions about yourself while you're experiencing temporary pain. You can be having a terrible month without having a terrible life. A lot of people, one thing goes wrong, my whole life sucks. You can make a bad decision without being bad at making decisions. Do you hear that? You can make a bad decision without being bad at making decisions. You can trust the wrong person without deciding you can never trust anyone again. You can fail at something without becoming a failure. Yes. The experience happens. You can't change that. But you do get to decide what the experience means about you. You don't get resilience without something to be resilient through. A lot of people want to talk about who I made it through the mountain and the journey and God used me and everything else, but they don't want the shit that it took to get to the other side. And I understand because I've been through some tough things. We talk a lot about resilience. Everybody wants to be resilient, but think about what resilience actually requires. You don't discover your resilience when everything is comfortable. You discover it when something knocks you down. Eventually you realize, wait a minute, I'm still here. That's where power starts developing. Not because what happened was good, not because you should be grateful somebody hurt you, and certainly not because you deserve what happened, but because you know something about yourself that you didn't know before. You know you can survive disappointment. You know you can rebuild. You know you can start over. You know you can change your mind. You know you can say no. You know you can walk away. You know you can lose something and still have a life afterward, and that's powerful. There are things today that would have destroyed the version of you from 10 years ago. But you lived, you learned, you developed resources, you experienced things, you've gotten stronger, and maybe you're not giving yourself enough credit for that. A lot of times people don't because they just look at what's going wrong instead of all the things that are going right. I always tell my clients, I want you to write on a piece of paper all the good things in your life, then all the bad things. And usually the good things is longer. It usually is. It's very rare that it isn't. Now, sometimes that bad thing could be really bad, right? Someone you love died. But, always give the example when my son died, I had to be grateful that he wasn't murdered because that's got to be heartbreaking. Or, his body's missing. I never find it. He died in the hospital around people who loved him. And it still hurts. It still sucks. And I still wish it didn't happen. But I had to find some gratitude so I didn't lose my mind. Empowering isn't pretending you aren't hurting. Now, I want to make an important distinction here. Being empowered doesn't mean pretending nothing hurts. You can be powerful and cry. You could be resilient and exhausted. You could be intuitive and confused. Yes. You can know you're going to get through something and still have a day when you don't want to get out of bed. You can be a healer and need help. You can be a coach and have your own mess. You can be spiritual and say, this sucks. That's being human. The problem isn't having the emotion. The problem is when we start building our identity around what happened. There's a difference between I'm going through a difficult time and nothing ever works out for me, which isn't true. There's a difference between that person hurt me and nobody can be trusted. I was listening to a clip of, it was Jay Shetty talking to Paris Jackson, Michael Jackson's daughter. And she said the worst advice she's ever given is don't trust anyone. Because she says, how can you foster intimacy and connection if you don't trust anyone? And think about it. If I don't trust anyone, if you don't trust anyone, how can you have a close romantic relationship? How can you get to know somebody deeply? How can you be vulnerable? It is the worst thing that we do is not trust anyone, that all people are bad because one or two or a couple of people hurt us. That's not everybody in the world. It really isn't. Yes, there's a difference between I failed at something and I'm a failure. Feel what you need to feel. Grieve, get angry, rest, talk to somebody, get support, regulate your nervous system. But you don't build a permanent home inside a temporary experience. At some point, you have to ask yourself, what am I going to do now? This is where accountability comes in. And people don't like this. In society, we've gone very gentle. And I'm guilty of this. I know my early years of reading, I didn't want to hurt anybody or upset anybody, and I had so much compassion and empathy for what people have gone through. But I don't think I was coaching enough, even though they're calling for readings. I feel like sometimes you have to be very direct, and people may not always like it, but it's the right thing to do. So, and this is where I'm going to give you a little bit of tough love because it can save you. I know it saved me when somebody just told me, get off your shit. I had to be told that many years ago. There comes a point where healing requires accountability, not blame, accountability. Those are not the same thing. Maybe you didn't create what happened to you. No, more than likely you didn't. But you're responsible for what you do with your life now. We all are. And we can't just sit there with this person hurt me, this person let me down, my mom died, my son died. We know these things hurt and we will carry the grief and carry the pain, but we have to take back our lives. And sometimes that means asking yourself uncomfortable questions. What did I know now that I ignored? Where did I abandon myself? What boundary did I know I need but didn't enforce? Ooh, I've done that many times. Where did somebody show me exactly who they were, but I kept hoping they would become somebody else? Been there. Where am I waiting for someone to give me permission to do what I already know I need to do? Stop looking for approval from others. You may never get it. If you have a parent that never approved, don't think they're going to magically do it because they got their own work to do. Where am I complaining about something that I actually have the power to change? These questions aren't designed to shame you. They're designed to return your agency to you. Because if something is somebody else's responsibility, then somebody else has all the power. But the moment you say, okay, I can't change what they did, but I could change what I do next, You have power again. Maybe you should have left sooner. Okay, what are you doing now? Maybe you should have listened to yourself. Okay, but what are you doing now? Maybe you lost money. We all have. Good Lord. Okay, what did you learn? Maybe you spent 10 years people pleasing. Okay, are you going to spend another 10 years doing it? That's the question. Are you going to shift? Why am I shifting from psychic readings to psychic coaching? Well, I've always done psychic coaching, but I'm just not going to do readings anymore. I've also been thinking differently about my own work. I've done psychic readings for many years, 24, professionally. And I believe in intuition. I live by it. I've been told some crazy stuff and watched it happen. I've told people crazy stuff and watched it happen. I believe psychic information can be incredibly helpful. But I'm becoming more and more interested in psychic coaching than simply psychic readings. On the platform, I would do readings. I am pretty much not going to return to the platform, and I'm just going to focus on my private business or use Hipsy, which allows for coaching, because I don't want you dependent upon me. I don't need to impress you. I don't need you walking away saying, wow, Dr. Donna knew all of that. I don't need that. I'd much rather you walk away saying, I know what I need to do. And there's a big difference. If you ask me about a relationship and intuitively I don't see the relationship going where you want it to go, I'm going to tell you. But then we're going to talk about you. Why are you staying? A lot of people know when they need to leave. They're just hoping that it wasn't all in vain, that they didn't waste time staying. What are you afraid will happen if you leave? What do you believe you deserve? Are you waiting for someone to choose you while repeatedly refusing to choose yourself? That's coaching. And it's not always fun because we live in a world where people want to feel good and numb the pain, and I get it. If you're asking me whether your business will be successful, well, I'm interested in what I intuitively see. But I'm also going to ask, what are you doing? Are you showing up? Are you willing to be visible? Are you learning from what isn't working? Are you changing the strategy when the strategy isn't producing results? If you keep on doing the same thing, you keep on getting the same result. We all have to switch up. I reinvent myself every day because I'm always trying to figure it out, because I want to be more authentic. I suck at social media. I know how to play the game, but I don't want to play the game. I know what to say, but I don't want to do it that way. So I hurt myself because I want to lean in more to the rawness and the authenticity of it. Because a reading doesn't replace action. It doesn't. Intuition is information. What you do with information is where your life changes. Stop handing your power to other people. They don't know what to do with it anyway. Don't put your life in somebody else's hands. This is especially important when it comes to spiritual work. Please stop handing your power to us psychics. I don't want to control anybody. And yes, I'm a psychic saying that. Stop handing your power to coaches. Stop handing your power to healers. Stop handing your power to social media experts. Stop handing your power to somebody on TikTok telling you that your ex is coming back. Listen, receive guidance, get support, and maybe that ex may just come back, but will you want them? Learn, ask questions, but eventually make a decision, your decision. And understand that sometimes you will make the wrong decision, and that's part of being empowered too. Empowerment isn't knowing with 100% certainty that every decision is correct. That isn't how empowerment works. It's trusting yourself enough to know, if this decision doesn't work, I can handle that too. Instead of, I'm going to blame the psychic, I'm going to blame somebody else, it's somebody else's fault. We only want to take credit when everything goes well, but when something goes bad, we want it to be somebody else's fault. And that isn't how it works. You lose your power. That's important. Think about how freeing that is. You don't need a guarantee before you move. You don't need 5 readings. You don't need 10 people's opinions. You don't need another sign. People get signs all the time, but they don't like the signs that they're getting. We're always looking for signs that everything's working. I'm on the right path. Sometimes you get signs saying, oh, turn around, baby. Do it differently. Sometimes you need to make the best decision you can with the information you have, and then trust yourself to deal with the outcome. That's self trust. We have to stop with I'm disappointed. It didn't work out. I didn't get my way. Life will have disappointments. It doesn't mean that life sucks. What if you already had the rough time? And maybe you're listening to this thinking, Donna, it's already happened. Okay, then let's talk about that. Maybe you've already had the breakdown. You already lost the relationship. Some relationships need to be lost. You already made the mistake. You already gone through the financial struggle. You already embarrassed yourself. You already ignored your intuition. You already stayed too long. Okay, you're still here. So what did you learn? I want you to stop looking at the old version of yourself and asking, how could I have done that? That version of you was working with awareness, resources, patterns, fears, and capacity that you had at the time. Now you know more, so you use it. You don't honor your past by staying stuck in it. You honor it by becoming wiser because of it. Maybe you learned, I won't abandon myself to keep someone anymore. I won't say yes when my entire body is saying no. Sometimes our body's screaming at us to say no, and we're like, yes. People pleasing, overgiving. I won't confuse chemistry with compatibility because it ain't the same thing. And people to this day is like, I just don't feel the chemistry. And it's like, thank God, because use that chemistry gonna lead you to hell. I won't confuse rescuing with love. It's not. I'm a rescuer in recovery. I won't confuse anxiety with intuition because using, intuition is calm, is grounding. I won't keep giving because I'm afraid somebody will leave if I stop. I won't keep making myself smaller so somebody else can feel comfortable. I won't keep making myself smaller so somebody else can feel comfortable. That's not bitterness, that's wisdom. Your scars don't have to become walls, they could become information. If you're in the middle of a hard lesson, so your power is the next choice. If you're in the middle of a hard lesson, I don't need you to figure out your entire life today, and I'm not telling you to. I want you to figure out the next choice. What's one thing you can do? Maybe it's making the phone call you've been avoiding. We've done that. Maybe it's finally saying no. You say yes to saying no. Maybe it's applying for the job instead of worrying about if you get it or not. Just apply. Maybe it's getting help. Maybe it's admitting the relationship is over. Maybe it's forgiving yourself. Maybe it's getting back online and promoting the business again after taking a break. Maybe you gave up, but get back on the horse. Maybe it's resting today because your body is telling you it needs rest. Maybe it's telling somebody the truth. Maybe it's simply deciding, I'm not doing this to myself anymore. Your power isn't always some enormous dramatic transformation. We have to stop looking at life in like confetti moments and dramatic moments. Sometimes your power is a tiny decision nobody else sees, and then another and another and another until one day you look around and realize, I'm not that person anymore. That's how change happens, not because somebody predicted a beautiful future for you, because you still got to walk into that, because you started participating in creating one. Everybody has power. I'm going to close this out. This is a very important topic to me. And I've been feeling it more and more lately. Because even though, I will push people towards growth, people will push back. And they're like, but you said, and I said, but what did you do? You know? And I realize that my legacy is to really show people empowerment. And it's not like doing motivational speaking. That's good stuff. I love motivational speakers. But it's like telling people you've gone through some shit, you could be resilient, you could recover from this, but you're going to have to decide that what happened to you does not define the rest of your life. And it may have been bad. I've heard a lot of horrible stories. I watch true crime. Okay? But if you're alive, you are still able to be resilient and create a life that you want from that point on. So I'm going to close this out. This is not the end of your story. So if you're in a hard season right now, hear me out. This is not the end of your story. You don't have to pretend you're okay. You don't have to rush through the pain. And you don't have to turn every difficult experience into some beautiful spiritual lesson before you're ready. And it may never be a beautiful spiritual lesson. But don't give your future away because your present hurts. Don't let one relationship convince you that you're unlovable. Because a lot of times people have a bad relationship, the next person is the perfect person. Don't let one failure convince you you're incapable. Don't get stuck there. Whatever got you to that mindset, work through it. Don't let one bad decision convince you that you can't trust yourself. Goodness. Don't let one hard chapter convince you that the whole story is bad. And don't spend the rest of your life waiting for somebody else to tell you what's going to happen. Maybe the most important question isn't what's going to happen to me. Maybe it's who am I going to become no matter what happens? That's the work I'm interested in now. Yes, intuition. Yes, psychic guidance. Yes, spirituality, but also accountability, boundaries, self trust, resilience, embodiment, and action. Because I don't want to be the person holding your power for you. I have no desire for that. I want to help you recognize that you already have it. And if you've been through hell lately, you're still standing. What was the phrase? I think FDR said, if you're in hell, keep going. And I used to hate that. And it's like, yeah, I'm in hell, but I got to keep going. You're still standing, maybe a little bruised, maybe tired, maybe you're still figuring some things out, but you're here. So take what you've learned. Take your wisdom, take your intuition, take your mistakes, take every version of yourself that got you this far and move forward. Your hard season is not the end of your story. It might just be the chapter where you finally realize how much power you have. And that's what I want you to know. And that is how the work is going to be from this point on. I will lose clients, and that is fine. I will be more blunt on social media because that's who I want to be. I would be more hard hitting, more direct, and sometimes it's going to feel a little bit ouchy, and some people aren't going to like it because it's not a feel good session. I am interested in real life because it's great to feel good, but resilience is better. It's more delicious. I want to thank you for listening today. Have a wonderful, blessed day, and I will see you in the next episode.